Hello, and welcome to this audio director's commentary, writer's comedy, star, actor, producer, everything. No, sorry, welcome to the director's commentary for The Curse of Isla Tormenta. I'm Edward Frizzelle, and I'm hoping really to use this commentary to try and capture some of the details maybe and memories I have before I forget about them. I'm notoriously bad at remembering anecdotal details about them. So as we open up here, we're opening on to the safety briefing prologue, which I added afterwards, and this actually came after the audition process. I had a really great turnout to the auditions. I had worried about who was going to turn up and whether I'd have enough people to cast for it, and I was very lucky, and we had some actors and some newbies that really wanted to get involved, and it suddenly occurred to me that actually I could write a short prologue to involve some of them, and it really was to replace the safety briefing, which is a traditional announcement that we have that plays out. It's a pre-recorded thing that kind of details the safety procedures and all the hall restrictions, no vaping or anything like that. And it was great. I managed to persuade Roy, who was interested in being it, Roy here playing Captain Harford, who is named after the old Luton Town football captain, as a way of enticing Roy into it as a big Luton fan. He said to me that he was interested in being in it but didn't really want a big part, and the way I'd written it, there wasn't really a small part for him, but this seemed like a perfect balance for him. And Steph was new, that's Ordinary Seaman April on the left, and Vicky returning from her play last year, Calendar Girls, which I was in as well. She expressed an interest in being it, and I think the smaller role suited her. I thought this would be a 1 to 2 minutes long, very short, very quick and snappy, but I think it ends up being about 6 minutes, which is probably a bit too long. But I had the idea of trying to make the audience laugh and feel at ease early on. So I thought if I could take some of the humour and inject it straight away, where they don't really need to pay attention to any details of the story. Obviously the safety briefings they do, but if they can just realise, oh, this is funny, because I have a fear of people not finding it funny, or I've been in performances before where you come out on one night and just there's no reaction from the audience. So I thought I'd build up the atmosphere in the hall beforehand. I think it helped that at the time it was quite hot with the weather. It gave you that kind of summery, tropical feel anyway. And I tried to further enhance this with some posters for the fake movies in the play. So we had the ones for Decimal Point Complex and Midnight Mirage and things like that put up around the hall. I also played with the ambience tracks throughout each scene. They would all have their own bespoke track, which depending on where they were. So in this case, we're on a boat, so you've got a subtle diesel engine in the background and then waves crashing against the hull. I like the idea of people sitting back and closing their eyes almost and thinking, I feel like I'm on the adventure as well. I think Roy enjoyed playing this role. The part was based on Captain Katanga, I think his name is, from Raiders of the Lost Ark. I wanted this smooth captain who was very charming, and Roy got the brief straight away. I think this is the second time Vicky has played the very straight delivering of important information, which I knew she could do because she played the wonderfully named Elsie Ewan-Court in Jurassic Panto, who was a lawyer.
And enjoy the Curse of Isla Tormenta. And let's hope you all...
And April or Steph has some funny lines in this one, where she, my favourite one is when she says, Krakens are an emergency. It's, not to blow my own script's trumpet, but I found that quite funny. So here we go, that's the prologue done. We got some nice tropical music starting now. All of the soundtrack like this throughout the play is royalty-free music, which meant it didn't have to have a license, and I didn't really want it to be flagged on YouTube where it eventually ends up. So here we are, we're into the main play now. So the origin of the idea for it was, I always wanted to write something, something that I've always been keen to do. I'd written films before. It had been a number of years since I'd written one, but the challenge came from Simon after the last play I directed, Shakers, went down quite well, and I was clearly buzzing from it. And he said, to really get that next level, if you write it, that gives you that great ownership over it. And I kind of took that as a challenge, like I said, and thought I do want to write something. And I always like the idea of doing a murder mystery. I just think they're fun in general, and they always make a nice evening. I think I've been in them and gone to them before, and I like the style as well, when maybe you would have a 3-course meal maybe while watching them, and you'd have 3 acts and try and work it out as you go along. But I'm not sure, but previously I've been very overwhelmed by how to structure one, and getting very caught in the weeds of, well, I need to come up with motives for anything, I need to track all the evidence and things like that, and I need to create red herrings. And I found it, like I say, very overwhelming. But I had this idea to create this motive matrix on this one, where I'd write down all the characters, give them a motive, and then an evidence. And this was this table, I think it was about 8 by 3, and it basically gave each person a reason for why they would want the character of Brett dead. But the setting itself came from a script for a sketch called Castaways, which Tracy Canavan Smith wrote, and she gave it to me for some feedback on, and I really enjoyed it. I found it very funny, but what really captivated me was the idea of setting something on a tropical island. And I've always been a sucker for deserted island stories, like Castaway or 6 Days, 7 Nights, and always wanted to make a story like that. And there's also a video game that has had a profound influence on a lot of my work, called Broken Sword, which is very British humour. It's an adventure game from the 90s. And in the second one, The Smoking Mirror, which I think is 1997, there's a whole sequence where they're making a movie on the beach, and it occurred to me that that would be a wonderful setup for this, and indeed setting it in the 90s allowed me to restrict a lot of the technology that would make a lot of these problems with murder mysteries go away, but also not feeling too far away. I mean, I'm well aware now that 1996 was 30 years ago now, upsettingly, but it still feels quite close to home. But I certainly have a nostalgic feeling for that time period, even though I was, 9 when this is set. I chose 1996 specifically because I wanted to include a gag around them pulling out a Lost World Jurassic Park script from Brett's bag. The idea that he could be in the running to be in that film, and the idea that it was called Jurassic Park 2 rather than The Lost World. But yeah, that was the main reason why. So this scene establishes the characters. This is our chance to get to know all of them. We've met Maddie, who I based on an executive in a previous role where I worked for a TV production company called the Media Trust. There was this lovely lady there who was several lines of management above me, but she had this brilliant ability to switch between being so nice and caring. Like she would say, "Oh Ed, it's lovely to see you. I'd love to see you at the party on Friday. I want to hear all about your week this week and the projects you've been on." And then, later that day, come out of a meeting where they've essentially fired someone and looking like an absolute ice killer, only for them to switch back into their bubbly personality again. Looking forward to Friday. I also tried to put a bit of my own personality into Maddie. I think I have this inherent want to try and be fair to everyone. It's probably trying to people please, if I'm honest, but and also trying to de-escalate situations. Or at least I aspire to be like that, and it's often easier said than done. Maddie's second name is Anderson, which is a reference to Gillian Anderson, who I pictured in my head while writing, while visualising the character. It was Gillian Anderson walking around the island. You can see Dale in the background there. He's based on a few people I've worked in the past. Some people with that attitude that everything was better back in the day. You'd hear things like, you used to own things, DVD, books, all of that. You owned it. It wasn't a license, and they couldn't take it away from you. And I remember speaking to this guy at a conference for work not too long ago. Well, before this, obviously, but he was a northern guy, and I randomly was speaking to him about electric cars, and he was going, you need to be using climate control. I'm not telling you to turn it off to save money. You've spent money on your car, and you've got to be comfortable to use it. And he going on and on about how I should be using the climate control in my car. At no point did I ask for any of this advice or any opinions of this stuff, or say that I turn my climate control off. So just very straight. Here's my opinion. You didn't ask for it. I have to be honest. The part itself was actually written for Jim. He was in my mind. A big part of that came from the lack of men at Players. I think that it was possible to do, and I could cast it, but I wanted to check with Jim. Actually, we were recording a podcast, I think, at the time, and I actually asked him, would you ever do a play? Because he hadn't done one since the 90s, I don't think. His last one was, well into the late 90s. He'd come back for doing pantomimes and things. So I said, would you ever do one again? He said, yeah, and I think it timed well with him changing roles at work a little bit. And hey, it suited me great, because I was effectively thinking about cutting the part of Dale at that point. And I'm glad we got to do it, because I do appreciate the character. And the Coglin name is Dale Coglin is a reference to Cocktail from 1988, where that episode of the podcast we were talking about that film, and there's the character Coglin in it, and Jim kept doing the whole Coglin's Law in it, and kept quoting it during the recording. So I don't know if he knows that's why it's in there, but that is why. You had Ish at the start as well. I like the idea of having someone who you'd want to become friends with if you're on a trip. Has interesting knowledge of something, but also a bit self-deprecating with their humour, and someone who's maybe not quite sure of who or what they want to be yet. The name was based on a friend of mine who I used to go to school with, and our parents were friends. And I was gutted when she moved away back up to Scotland, the Isle of Skye, whilst we were still in lower school. We're still friends on social media, and we've seen each other a couple of times since. She's actually a great photographer. But the name is a tribute to her, Isabel. Not that I think she accidentally killed someone or anything, but she's really lovely in real life. Perry, the director, probably based slightly on myself and Simon when we were younger, taking ourselves too seriously, being opinionated about things unnecessarily, underlying with huge imposter syndrome, and also based on a few people at university who were trying out creative other people with their ideas. I remember there was a group of students that were really bigging up this film that they were doing. We had this group showing, and in the end it was just about some stoner guy waking up and having a bad trip. So it was just an excuse to put on some weird traily video effects on it, and it was overshot, close-ups of everything. He enters the kitchen and there's a close-up of him turning on the lights, the kettle's being switched on, here's a shot of the kettle and the water boiling inside the kettle. The story just didn't go anywhere. And I'm not saying that my films were much better, but I think mine was called Lightning Rod or something. It's a superhero film, which I believe is lost, which is probably for the best. Perry's name, Perry Luxon, just came out of nowhere. It's one of those nice ones that came quite easily. Chess ultimately was written for Lisa Van Duzer, who unfortunately couldn't do the play in the end as she was pregnant, although I think her due date was around the time of the performance, but Lisa was still offering to do it. But I said no. Taylor, who ended up playing chess, who played it brilliantly, who brought a whole new side of the character, which I hadn't thought about, but still managed to maintain the dry, sarcastic personality, was brilliant. But Taylor could have played a number of different roles. I like Chess because she's always right and will correct you, but you inexplicably don't get annoyed by it. And I like that when people have that personality. The name was a placeholder name used in the film Simon Jeffrey I made called The Getaway Driver. Here's Bob. We just wanted something. I just wanted something to put down, and I'd change it later. In the end, it turned into a motive for the Jess/chess thing. Although I unconsciously stole that idea, or a similar one from Simon from Jurassic Panto. I remember telling him about it, and he goes, "Yeah, I know, I just did it in my script." And coincidentally, it was Taylor playing that part again as well. Bob here, I wanted someone who would just bring chaos. I've always been intrigued by Hollywood method actors. I had aspirations of being an actor like that when I was younger. And then considering the other side of it, where it's actually probably really annoying for the people working around you. If you're in method all the time, you just want to get your work done. I personally found the idea of someone method acting, but only between their working hours, quite hilarious, as it went to show, well, you can turn it off and on again, so why not just do that? again, Bob was always written for Zeppet, really. I wanted someone who had gravitas to their voice and acting ability, and mixed with someone who could also flip it and be very silly. And Zepp is definitely capable of doing that. And I wanted to have him be like a veteran Hammer horror style character actor on the periphery of the mainstream. And his name is like a tribute to Christopher Lee. So there we go. There were Brando in Platoon. I don't think anyone got that, but it amused me anyway. Felicity, going back, came about thinking about my own work-life balance, now careers progress after children. It became a bit of a thought exercise into what that may have been like for women wanting to return to work in the 90s. Just some feelings of identity and purpose to explore. The name was inspired by an old friend's first girlfriend. I remember when he first came back and it was like, oh wow, someone's got they've got a girlfriend. What's their name? Felicity. And I found it so sophisticated. Felicity. I mean, it's a lovely name, but yeah, it just sounded so exotic and sophisticated, like I say. Brett was the first time I'd written a character without being able to picture anyone who could play it. And I tried to make him very obviously narcissistic, as I had a fear I would have to play him if I didn't get the numbers in at the auditions. And I didn't want people to think that I made myself the star, you know, the big hotshot movie star. So I was relieved when Chris turned up. And the name just came from wanting it to sound cool, like Brad or something. So in this scene, chapter 2, they're going to be shooting the scene Passions to Trevor. Trevor? That's the sequel. Passions to Treasure. And I knew that if we were basing it around shooting a film, we'd have to have a scene where we actually shot a scene from it. Keyed into another idea for a previous murder mystery I'd had many years ago about incorporating something like CCTV of an incident that gets replayed later for the audience to spot clues. I like the idea of it being replayed and you get to see it from a different angle, maybe. And then wanted the script within the play to be quite pained but also funny. Like, I could imagine Perry acting it out by himself and playing all the parts. The swords you can see there were from Maulden Players, who sadly disbanded last year and had a clear out. And they were basically saying anything goes. And I found them and went, well, that solves that problem. Although I will say Marion didn't like them. She didn't like one of them. I can't remember which one it was. I can't remember if it's Chris's or Zepp's. I think she liked the idea more of the curved cutthroat style blade that you would picture with a pirate film. It was around this scene when we were rehearsing that I'd realised I'd been way too carefree about writing in props to scenes. And I think this comes from having a more of a filmmaker background, where in the script I was dressing the set with lots of detail. You know, there's sandwiches on the table, there's a clapperboard, there's the boom pole, there's a flight case, a Firestone, water bottles everywhere, a 35mm camera, plasters, clipboards and pens. And when I put the list of all the props together, it was over 100, I think, in the end. And I just thought, note to self, definitely calm it down next time. I think we don't need that many props. And I've started writing a script since, and gone back and looked at some of my notes and been like, well, you don't need that prop, we don't need that. So taken a lot out. One prop that you can see there though, which is the 35mm camera. Simon volunteered to pick it up and source it, the responsibility for it. I think he took some pride in wanting it to look right. I had pictured a 8mm camera that I'd bought in either a charity shop or in the market in Camden or something, with the the aspirations of getting it working. And I'm going to shoot a movie on 8mm film, but I couldn't find it. But luckily Simon said he would look at sourcing one, and that is what the camera body is from. It is an 8mm. I think it's a super 8mm camera that he got off eBay, and which has that lovely trigger style look to it that you would want from it. And then on top is like a plastic container, and I want to say it's like a food container, and he got it from IKEA or something, or Temu maybe, and he adapted it to look like the big film roll, and it works really well. You see the wooden baton that falls down on there. That was one of the moments in the script I'd written down and gone through it without ever thinking about the logistics of it. And every time we get to the rehearsal, and it would be like, and then Brett gets hit by the wooden baton, and I'm like, oh God, how am I actually going to do that? And thankfully Jim was on stage and suggested using a hinge, or it's like a latch thing that was already on the ceiling, and he said, why don't you just attach to that? I think just use that. And from there the idea sparked and went ahead, which was really useful. Mark Shepherd, who does the sound on this, provided the baton very kindly. Lauren brought some great energy to this. Some of the delivery is perfect, and the hair flicking is just wonderful. I also wanted Perry to have just really unhelpful direction. Imagine you're a phoenix reborn from flame, or imagine your whole life is flashing before your eyes, and then saying the line, and you think about the logistics of that, and you're like, sorry? Madness from him.
Sorry, I'm struggling. What do you want me to do? Come on, you're a pro, Felicity. Just do it.
And just do it. So unhelpful.
Now, back off before I start
flanding out contussions.
We're better than this, people.
I constantly was fighting the word processors and script writing tools to get this to accept that. It kept trying to correct it every time, and I think even someone pointed it out, saying, that's not spelt correctly there, without knowing the context of it. Chris does a great throwing of the sword onto the table. I can't remember if it's in the script or not, but it makes for a great impact moment. And I love the awkwardness of the other actors. Really like the idea of Ish feeling some responsibility over it as well, and thinking, oh, what are we going to do? And so, well, you don't have to do anything. And of course, here comes Bob with his ham and cucumber lines. I'm glad this got a laugh.
Are there any ham and cucumber sandwiches left?
Play perfectly by up there, and then we go into another little musical interlude while we swap scenes, which it now switches to a front of curtain scene. And I originally wrote these just as a way of changing up the location and keeping it fresh. And the thought that they would be useful or even required for changing the scenes behind the curtains hadn't occurred to me. And there was definitely a moment where I was like, thank God I did. I wrote these in. I hadn't even thought about it. Again, these scenes originally had a lot more props and furniture in them. I was going to have a huge canvas backing behind them to show the tent canvas. There was going to be tables, lamps, more chairs, bags around, try and personalise each tent to each of the characters. But quickly came to the decision that we didn't need to do it. And in doing so, removing that and simplifying it reduced the amount of time that was needed for the for the changes just between these scenes, let alone what was going on behind there. This scene is here because I wanted to write an intimate, or even the suggestion of a romantic relationship in a play, and I always like the idea of doing that. I find it a little difficult to do within an amateur group because of the various dynamics. It's made up of friends and sometimes family, and it can get awkward quickly, I think. So it's difficult to do, but it is something I'd like to explore in the future maybe. But I thought here's a little taste of two characters talking about a relationship or a moment that has happened previously. And realistically, it's a way of sowing the seeds for motive here, giving characters histories, wanting Brett to appear like he had just a one-track mind, again making him quite difficult to like. But I also wanted him to show the elements of him being able to be charming. So I wanted the audience to understand why people, get caught in his spell and why he manages to get these jobs and get to where he is. I think Chris plays it wonderfully. He understood the brief excellently. Lisa, my assistant director, was brilliant for moments like this because I would beat around the bushes and give, soft direction about things, and then Lisa would have the ability to come in and just give not harsh, but like firm directions. Like, well, Brett's just wants to Felicity here, so that's what you're doing, and it's it's great because I just through my personality, it's not the kind of direction that I would give, but it's absolutely what it needed, and Lisa was perfect for moments like that. I think Lisa's got a future directing, definitely. Although it's a shame not to have her in it because she's wonderful as well. As I said before, I've always had this interest in desert island and being stranded. And I think I even, when I was a bit younger, had a bit of a desire to be stranded on a desert island, certainly when I'd be employed in a job I didn't like or something, or felt a bit lonely, or felt like I wasn't in a good place with my friends. Maybe I would fantasize about just being cast away and alone and just having to be sufficient by myself. So enjoyed moments like this. There's something cosy about the solitude of having the waves crashing and that fire you made crackling away. I tried to give a bit of that feeling at the start of this scene where Ish is by herself moments before Maddie enters. I had wanted it to be longer, but the play's runtime was already pushing the limit, I think, so it's about as long as it could be, but it's just a nice moment, and Kelsey's wonderful as Ish as well, just living in the moment as the character. There was a funny moment on the Saturday night when the fire effect wasn't working and Kelsey was trying to get it going, or trying to point out, and I think it was someone backstage just hadn't flipped the switch on it, and it's slightly important that it was going, because I think there's some dialogue that references it, and Kelsey's just there kind of poking it, but she did it brilliant because she made it look like she was genuinely adjusting the fire, trying to make it catch. Wonderfully improvised. And the fire on top of the firestone as well, that became a real challenge to Source. There was nothing really pre-made that was right, and I knew exactly what I wanted in my head when I wrote it, and I found it incredibly hard to articulate it to everyone what that meant. But eventually Marion ended up making it out of like a spray foam that I think you would use it for tyres, or run flat, or you could use it as insulation, I think. And she would then mould it and cut it into the shape she wanted. But it looks how I wanted it now, and in being the foam, it was durable and very lightweight for the crew to move, rather than this huge, block that needs moving. Phil, Mia and Roy, who were the backstage team, stepped in at last minute as we'd been let down by the previous manager, who had left the project, unfortunately, but they stepped in and did brilliant with it. And I mean, Mia and Roy had never done backstage work before, so I think they did just wonderfully.
I'm just getting to know. I would like you to celebrate with me tonight what will be my 100th film entry.
Bob's little speech here and the rum was because I wanted a moment where the audience were clued into something specific. And the rum was that, and the audience could watch then who was drinking it and perhaps come up with their own ideas of how this murder could place, or who could have been doing it.
Congratulations. Where the hell did you get that, and is it actually consumable?
Of course.
I really like the way the coloured LED lights give the scene its dark, relaxed atmosphere. Nick Endicott on lights, he found a lovely balance to it, making it quite moody but relaxed, not too scary.
Seriously, don't drink this.
To the magic of cinema.
The magic of cinema.
Thanks, Rob. I'm not familiar with this whole method acting thing.
I like the idea Felicity, out of all of them, is not familiar with method acting when she's been in the industry for a number of years. This is one of those things that you notice afterwards.
Bob, you're a living legend.
I love this world building aspect of coming up with fake movie names for Bob to have been in. Very enjoyable. 7 Days of Play is actually a real film by Simon, who plays Perry, and can be found on YouTube. It's worth a watch. The other one, Decimal Point Complex, which is Brett's film, was a fictional novel from a student film I made in 2009 called Norman's Book, which is also hidden deep on YouTube if you can find it, but I probably wouldn't recommend it.
Oh, I don't know. Does anyone want to hear a song from the old door?
Of course we do, Bob. I'm sure we'd love to hear some.
I knew I wanted a song at some point. Whilst putting our 2025 pantomime Rapunzel because of some of the equipment we got hold of, we really elevated our sound quality in the recordings, and it happened that we had some great singers on that. But what it allowed me to do is isolate the vocals away from the music, enhance the EQ and rebalance the music on the tracks. It made me really appreciate the quality of some of our singers, and I would get goosebumps listening to their isolated vocals at points, especially when someone's such a naturally talented singer. It's really great. And I wanted to continue that with a recording of an original song in this. So Let Love Win here was written and performed by Stacey Richards, and Stacey used to be a member of Players, and I did a couple of shows with her at Silso as well, although she was known as Stacey French, I think, back then, before she got married. She published this on her YouTube in 2018, and I remember coming across it after she'd posted it around the time. And fast forward to the play, I'd planned to write something myself, but I knew anything I forced myself to write wouldn't be as good as this track. So I reached out to Stacey, and in hoping that I was, giving heaps of genuine flattery on the track, she would let me use it for the show, and thankfully she said yes. So I was over the moon, and I suggested she could re-record it as the original. I think it's just recorded on a phone or a laptop, but funnily she said that it had been so long she probably couldn't remember how to play it. To be fair, COVID had happened. It's a good 6-7 years after when I asked her. So I ended up using Logic Pro stem splitter to separate the vocal and the guitars, and added a little bit of production magic dust to the backing tracks with EQ and reverb and that kind of thing. But what it does mean is that the guitar in the play really is being played by Stacey. And I wrote that Bob faces away from the audience when playing, really in case the actor couldn't play guitar, and I don't think Zepp does, but he did offer to learn it, which was nice of him. I got Lauren and Chris to record their vocals one evening, so we had it pre-recorded. The main reason for this was because I wanted to experiment with how a studio track would sound when played back live, and I think it sounds really good, but it didn't look right with the voices clearly being amplified, and we traditionally have rarely used wireless mics to assist vocals at Players, something that we probably should be looking into. But Simon had the idea of just handing them the mics and grabbing a little amp, and it does well enough to sell the voices of the scene, I think. Although on Friday the microphones went missing, which was fun for Simon. He definitely panicked, but he improvised really well and said, "We'll use your wireless mics from earlier."
Bears, it could be.
You can actually see Ish when she goes into the tent to check on the fallen lighting sound. She comes out wiping her hands on her shorts, I think, and adjusting. I wanted to suggest that maybe she just dug something up or crushed it up. And then it's subtle, but she does hand Brett her undrunk rum glass. Although I'd hope unlikely. I wanted it to be possible to work out who the murderer was, and not just reveal it. Reveal something the audience were unaware of before, as I always feel that's a little bit unfair when they do that.
Look, we've got the damsel in distress over here.
I am playing a damsel. Playing.
Now what we need is a temptress. Intoxicating allure.
So Brett has moved on from Felicity here and is working on Ish with his master plan to bed one of them.
I'm not an actress.
When this movie's a box office smash, people will be flocking to see where the magic happens.
You can see the various ways he's annoying people as this goes on.
Well, that's enough ghost stories for me for one night. I'm turning in before the island decides to take me first. I'd say you're safe.
Just to talk briefly about the set, it's definitely one of the parts I most enjoy in the pre-production process. And I always try and make any sets that I work on memorable or hopefully unique. I think back to when we did Bouncers in 2012, we worked with this brick wallpaper and putting graffiti on it, which worked for the setting wonderfully. And in the office party, we had a raised platform at the back to give it some levels, and we had these desks that extended out in a way that you perhaps wouldn't expect, and furnished it with these lovely vintage Apple iMacs to give that marketing look. I think I did Agatha Christie 2 from 2018 as well. That was just a living room, probably the most boring one if I'm honest. And then Shakers, the horizontal string lights and the illuminated shaker signs. For this one, I wanted quite a naturalistic looking set. I like the idea of using fake plants and vines to add texture and depth. And originally I was just going to have a very dark background painted on the boards with the faint suggestion of trees. So you'd get the outline maybe of one or two trees without the detail. But Marion kindly painted this lush jungle scene. It took a couple of goes to get it where I wanted it to be. I didn't want it to look like a pantomime, but I think she did a brilliant job with this one. It's difficult to see there in the dark, but we put a boulder as well. My mum and one of her neighbours made the boulder out of paper mache, and I think his name's Ashley, and he's a wonderful artist near where my parents live, and some of his paintings are glorious. And yeah, he helped work on the boulder, along with my son Freddie and Dad. They also helped with a couple of layers of that, so they got their credit in the programme. Later on, the inside the tent, that was inspired by a play we did in 2010 called An Evening of Confusion. And there was a play within that called Gosford's Fate, and there was a marquee tent. And originally we had been planning to purchase the canvas material to make the tent in a similar way, but thankfully Marion, who, you know, all round help on this production really, she struck gold while she was down in our storage hut and found the original 2010 marquee canvas, which I think had been made by Angela Chimes, which was a wonderful set, and it's just saved us lots of money and lots of effort in putting that together, and even now it looks wonderful when you see it.
Yeah, just one more drink. Though, time to myself.
Trying to build up a bit of the spookiness here. Hard to do on stage. I don't know why. I find it easier on film to build the suspense up. I think because you get to play with the music and the pace of cutting, camera movement. But hopefully the audience still appreciated it. So we're off to another tent scene here. By this point, I established that the individual tent scenes were a good opportunity to start building small alliances between particular characters. Chess and Maddie are an important one, where you can clearly see the trust that Maddie puts in Chess and Chess's respect for Maddie's role, in the way that she doesn't speak to Maddie like she does anyone else.
Thanks, Maddie, I appreciate it.
The scenes were also a way to have a little bit more heart and maybe some pathos to give a wider dynamic to the play overall, rather than just being funny or forwarding the plot on. I did like the challenge, though, of
Don't the lads know?
trying to inject humour that didn't undo all the work you'd just done in building the emotion. I do like an icebreaker, but not one that undoes everything.
There's something about this place. It doesn't feel wrong, just strange.
Yeah, I think it's just the remoteness of it all. And
We originally had a fold-up bed in these scenes. All of the individual tents were going to be using the fold-up bed that you will see later inside the big tent that was generously lent to us by Gavin Blackman. However, care had to be taken over putting I think it's 8 legs down each time. And if you didn't get it perfectly, it would often end with it suddenly dropping down or snapping into place midway through a scene, totally destroying any tension that you'd built up. I know that happened a couple of times with Lauren and Chris's scene where, you know, she's just revealing some of her mum guilt and it's like, bang, oh. So we decided to simplify things again, and this was just, I think, like a sun lounger cushion, but it looks like it could be a camping mattress.
Always being strong. If I was you, I would have cracked by now.
Well, that's very kind of you, but I should tell you, I definitely cried into a pot noodle one day.
The pot noodle reference, one of the many enjoyable times I had researching something for the time period. So I was alive in the 90s, but as I said earlier, I was 9 in 1996, so definitely wouldn't have been able to recall what flavours were available, and I definitely wouldn't have been allowed to eat pot noodles when I was 9. No way. My mum wouldn't have let that happen.
Good night, Maddie.
Good night, Jess.
Chapter 6 of the Discovery. These titles for the scenes were ones that I came up with, I think, even before I'd finished writing the script. I knew what the scenes had to do, so given the title and then. But as time went on, they worked nicely as the naming of the scenes as well. The chapters, if you will, as I pretentiously call them. I started writing this scene, and I didn't want Chess to notice Brett straight away, or Brett, or Dale, or Ish. Sorry, I didn't want them to see him as being, you know, a corpse. But as this went on, it became something that amused me, and I tried to push the discovery for as long as I could. I also hoped that it might make the audience doubt whether he is dead or not, and maybe think he's just sleeping. I have to say, Chris was exceptional at laying still and pretending to have died. He would really get into the zone to the point that often during rehearsals I kind of forget he was not just a prop on the stage. He did very well, and even with the rest of the cast messing about with him as well. I remember one rehearsal when I think it was Simon and Zep put something on. I can't remember what. It was a twig from the fire or a leaf or something, and they were putting it on him to try and get a reaction. He just didn't move. The toothbrush here for Maddie was really to show that she was unprepared, and that was probably one of the first things I wrote in the scene. I just added the joke of her spitting it into the cup and it annoying Dale later, which is nice when you can build on an idea that you had early on and expand it.
Is there ever a time when bugs aren't trying to ruin my life? I just tried to wash my hair in the little river. That was a mistake.
You should try the waterfall next time. The kinetic boat.
Ish's line here about the kinetic flow. I wanted Ish to seem very knowledgeable and very smart about the island.
Well, unless the waterfall comes with a spa robe and a hairdryer, I'm out. And for the record, your hair's holding up very well.
I also wanted it to be that everyone
Hey guys.
really was being nice, especially the ladies were nice to each other. They weren't really catty or anything, that they complimented each other when they could.
Besides, we've got a location. There's a beautiful waterfall just
The idea of setting up an entire shoot, getting up at 5:30 in the morning, only to told the director has gone off, found somewhere new, and you'll be thanking me when you see it on the big screen. Like, Dale couldn't care less. Dale's not going to watch this film, probably. He's be on his next project.
Thank me when you see it on the big screen. Perry, Jesus, why is the camera
The sticky camera. This was inspired by someone at work who handed me their iPad. They were returning it. I think it was like an old one we were going to send back. But it was all sticky, and it had what I can only assume was sand on it. And it was genuinely disgusting, but they just took no responsibility for it whatsoever and just laughed about it, much like I made Simon do there. Just like, I can't get rid of it. It's like, no, like, I'm really sorry. Just, yeah. And I figured that would be something that would irritate Dale a lot.
guys.
When Brett is finally discovered, I wanted to crack up the mayhem dial before the end of the act.
Oh God, Chess! Where's Chess?
So everyone starts acting a bit chaotic here. Taylor with some wonderful medically trained skills here.
How did we not notice?
No, how could this happen?
Ah! This fracas!
Couldn't resist squeezing in one more Bobism.
And you shall leap the punishment I sow.
They were often useful for
All warriors will fall.
creating breaks and chaos in everything.
Oh, he's been dead for 8 to 10 hours, I reckon.
And I thought putting it in at that point meant we hadn't gone too far into the madness.
He sang that stupid song.
You don't think it was the rum, do you? The rum I brought?
No, we all drank that, but most of it.
No, wait, let's just all breathe, yeah?
I made Ish say that line. We all drank it because she didn't. She specifically didn't.
Or an aneurysm. I mean, it happens, yeah?
Just help me move him. Gently.
Oh my God.
It was so hard putting enough blood on Chris that you could see it from the audience. We'd always add a little bit more and you wouldn't see it. Add a bit more, wouldn't see it. And then that's actually loads on there. And even now it's not an overwhelming amount of blood, is it? He was supposed to be holding that cup. But we'll ignore that.
Chemical, medicinal.
Well,
Well, that's reassuring.
reassuring.
I mean, what about that gruel that Perry was dishing up last night?
Excuse me, we all ate that. Hey, gruel?
Find the word gruel very funny, and the idea of not Simon's food, Perry's food being described as that. It's just so harsh.
Okay, everyone, stay calm. No one leaves camp. We stay put. We treat this like a crime scene. The boat's due today, right, Ish? It was meant to be, but the weather's going to turn later. They won't risk the channel today.
Oh, God! Oh, God!
So because
I'm stuck on an island with...
I didn't want to engineer in a detective or a character pre-built for this role of investigating, I had to... I wanted to rely on that being Maddie from that risk assessment point of view.
Ate, drank, and said.
Do you think someone, one of us?
We're on a restricted island with no one else around. Either Brett dropped dead by divine intervention, infection, or someone here stabbed him to make sure that he did. And if that's the case, I want to know who I'm sharing a tent next to.
Hang on a minute, why are you in charge all of a sudden?
Because I was here to try and avoid any issues that might void our insurance. It's integral that now that we do things correctly.
Who could have done this? Natives?
No, the last natives left the island in the 1940s.
I took that, the natives, and with them leaving, that time was from St Kilda off Scotland when they left their island. And Eldolora Colto. I used Bob as a way of planting the seeds of the island spirit again. And I wanted the audience to genuinely consider it a possibility. I really like the idea of creating a kind of vibe that you get in an early Jonathan Creek episodes where you'd consider the solution to the problem being something supernatural, only for it to be disproven and grounded in reality later. But there is that moment where you think, well, that's all it can be, really, isn't it? The lightning flashes. We got this special lighting box from Bubbles, which was very expensive for about the 3 times you see the lightning. But in terms of atmosphere building, I think it is very necessary, and it adds a wonderful layer to it.
No, I'm not sending anyone off alone. We stay.
If I could have had it start raining on stage, I would have done.
Understood. Which means the killer stays with us too.
What? If it's planning.
What if it's planning to strike again? Bob's all in on Eldolora Colto now.
Eldolora Colto, you're freaking me out, man.
We take turns.
The cliffhanger that's coming up at the end here, this was something I'd struggled with at first. I think originally it ended with Maddie saying, "Now we wait." And
Someone check the tent. No, we all go. All of us together.
I think it just turned all atmospheric with wind building, the storm coming. I think I even wrote in that something like a branch blows across the stage. But Chloe Carpenter, who a previous member of Players, who very kindly read the first draft of Act 1, was really helpful in calling this out as not being a great ending to the act. So I added the section about the note from Maddie, and I didn't know at that point where it would go, but you just got to write these things and you find out, don't you? So this is Act 2, but for the viewers on YouTube it is Chapter 7, and we are returning shortly after with Chess and Maddie talking to themselves.
Not entirely sure how long the storm will last.
In my mind, the time between the scene before and this one, Dale has helped Chess move Brett into his tent, and everyone else has collected up evidence, perhaps.
I wrote the note to Brett after he missed the deadline to declare.
I believe that they've all just sat there for several minutes, no one talking, no one quite sure what to do.
Sorting it out. And he kept it. That I can't explain, sorry.
As I'd already planned the motives for everyone before, I didn't have a solution to Maddie's note, but I just discounted it straight away. But I left it open enough with her quickly saying, "Let's move on." So you're kind of like, she got over that quickly, and I'll remember that. But realistically, it's just red herring.
Exactly. Gritty realism.
That line about Bob playing a cop in the bill. On the Saturday night, I think Zepp had what looked like an out-of-body experience when he said he played a cop in Casualty, which clearly is a reference to this because he says Casualty later in the Act 2, and he just muddled it up. But I was zoomed in on the camera, but you could definitely see the subtlety on his face that he'd gone wrong already, and that kind of panicked look around. But Jim saved the moment and made it look like he was actually correcting his own back catalogue, which is amusing.
That actually sounds quite good. That'll definitely be better than the
Speed 2, cruise control. I like the idea that, you'd have films or events that we have knowledge of now, like Speed 2 could well have been highly anticipated. And at this point, we don't know Speed 2 is generally considered as bad as it is at this point. So it could have been very exciting for people. I don't know if it was highly anticipated. But it's a bit like that theme, a bit like Brett and his search engines. And, we know what we know now about search engines.
Didn't talk to anyone. Where did you walk to?
I managed to sprinkle a few of those throughout.
Did anyone see you?
Oh, hey, why am I being questioned? What are you accusing me of?
Let's stay on track. Felicity?
I went to wash my hair down by the little river. Honestly, between the bugs and the river, I've been in a state of constant damp.
You went to wash your hair in the dark?
I don't know why the idea of washing your hair in the dark makes me feel a bit uncomfortable.
Back to my tent and tried again in the morning.
Yeah, I went back to my tent as well after Bob's toast, sat up for a bit, finished my drink, checked the tide charts. Not that it was much use. The drink, we all drank it, right? But Brett's was the only one that smelled like hospital floor cleaner?
Yes, and my scalpel and syringe is still missing.
Seemed to be like a virus during rehearsals that everyone would pronounce scalpel. And I think a few slip into the performance as well. I don't know why.
I knew from the start he was committed to this role.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Bob.
shame the Oscar committee wasn't here.
That was not in the script at any point, Bob. And I'm sorry, but are you actually holding a knife right now?
With Quentin's not, I hoped this joke would work better. It really amused me while writing that Bob would just be playing around with a knife, and Maddie's just like, are you literally holding a knife right now? And the burn that no one's paid attention to Perry's script, which will have upset him deeply.
Chess, would you back that up, please? What I think is important now is we get a bit of a timeline going. We need to work out the last confirmed sighting of Brett alive.
The timeline thing, I discovered very quickly that it's really hard to keep track of a timeline for things that have happened off stage or out of view of the play. Like last time I saw him was about 11 p.m. and I'm not sure I ever kept on top of that stuff. I figured at some point I'd be drawing up a timeline, a big sheet of paper where I could track everything. Brett's death happens at this point. Perry went to his tent at this point. Bob did his chant here. But I never did it, and there's probably several plot holes in there somewhere because of this, but no one noticed, thankfully.
It's just, I spoke to Brett before dinner.
We start hearing some of the motives here coming out.
Talking, were ya?
Dale?
Dale's eyes is something I got from my wife Louise's family. They love an eye, and really that's a tribute to that. Yeah, I thought it worked well for Dale. The idea that he'd be thinking, history, have you?
Oh, yes. That's the one where I was mistaken for Ben Kingsley. What a night.
This is another moment as well. It's like, right, Bob can say something here, and you just start typing and see where it goes. And it ends up with a kebab and a bouncer. But there we go.
I was definitely drunk. It was the first proper night out I'd had in ages.
while this is playing out, I'll talk about the costumes briefly.
Footage.
Setting it in the 90s was good, as there wasn't anything too crazy to find. You know, it's not mad Victorian era or 60s Summer of Love kind of thing. Maddie, I wanted her to look out of place on the island. I think there's an image from, I think it might be the poster for Death in Paradise, with Ben Miller walking on the beach in his suit. I think I must have subconsciously had that in the back of my mind, because I did not purposefully steal that as a basis for it. And then I had her wearing a dress, but she decided to go with trainers just to relax a little bit. Dale there was easy. The main thing I wanted him to have was that gaffer tape on his belt. I've seen them so many times on sets and productions, and with a shirt like that, it's certainly how I've dressed as well on a number of things.
Whoever took them knew what they were doing, or wanted it to look that way.
Ish. I wanted some Isla Tormenta branding on there, so I designed the shirt front and back, and Helen England, who plays Maddie, magically made it with her shirt printer. It was wonderful, and it was very surreal having stuff like that come to life. It's, you know, it's a fictional island, and the Isla Tormenta Preservation Trust is a fictional organisation. But when you see it made into a real shirt, it just becomes very valid and very real. You have something tangible for it, and I love that. It's one of the best things about filmmaking and putting on plays like this, that you get to create these little worlds. I remember I had to separate the colours on the back because of the way it was printed for her, but it works really well. It's just almost sad you don't see it more.
All right then. Back in the 80s, Brett dated my daughter.
Thinking about Perry, my design for him was based on someone I'd seen on holiday when I was younger, with Hawaiian shirt, cargo shorts, and these boat shoes. I really wanted him to have a ponytail to go with the look, but Simon unfortunately insisted it wasn't impossible. I think there's a character in Broken Sword as well that I was channeling called Andre Lobenu.
Bob, you treat humming while you pee like a solo at the Sydney Opera House.
Chess, along with Ish a little bit, was inspired by Dr. Ellie Sattler from Jurassic Park, one of my favourite films. I just love that look of being on the tropical island, you know, the cargo shorts. It's just a great look. And I had to give Chess the oversized Blur t-shirt rather than pyjamas, and that's really just to plant my flag in the sand on which side of the Britpop fence I'm on.
By the fire around 10:30.
Felicity, I had in my head she was going to dress like a movie star from the golden age of cinema, you know, summering down on the Côte d'Azur, looking fantastic.
Okay, thanks, Bob. So you came out.
And Brett was pretty straightforward. I wanted him to have a leather jacket when playing Jackson, specifically tapping into that Marlon Brando cool of the Wild One, but totally inappropriate for the location. And then Bob, as you've seen, obviously wanted him to be in costume as Quentin for the entire play. The costume being a Seinfeld-like puffy shirt and jeans with boots, not really like an actual pirate or anything really. Maybe it's channeling Waterworld or something like that, I'm not sure.
Who cares?
Me, you can't just disturb the creative process. My vision isn't ready.
None of us are ready, Perry.
Where is the footage now, Perry?
Off your pop. That is an impression of, I think it's Mike Dean, the referee in the Premier League, ex-referee, who gave someone a red card and said, off your pop. And it amuses me a lot, so Chess said it.
There's a projector and a player over there. It's a little crude, but it runs off the...
More props.
Actually, I think someone should go with you. The storm is still pretty wild, and I don't think any of us should be alone. Any volunteers?
I'll go.
No, Ish. Better send someone like Dale, maybe.
Chess just offering up Dale.
I know my way around the island after dark, and if I get murdered, then you'll know it was Perry.
Excellent point.
Oh, if you're sure, if.
Yeah, I'm sure. We'll only be 5 minutes.
Good luck, stay safe.
Another moment where, how do you finish this scene? We'll have Bob say something. He was supposed to say it, I think, to Ish and Perry as they're leaving as some advice. But the way the blocking of the scene and the movement worked, it wasn't right for him to say it to them. But I think it's funnier to have him just say it to the people who left in the tent. So I think this is the last time we go to an individual's tent. Simon getting sprayed with water to sell the storm still. And Kelsey gets to wear a coat. Simon doesn't.
He's helped me out so much to get where I am in my career, but...
Perry in the scene taps very much here into something that myself and I know Simon have experienced, of being
Set me up rather than...
overprotective of something I'm working on until it's ready, and probably overworking on something. And it was the same for me in this script. I remember during the first read through we did with people down the village hall, and I was hearing people reading the lines I'd written out loud. I remember just sitting there feeling, I don't know, I went all sweaty and red, and I felt embarrassed. And I don't know why I felt incredibly vulnerable hearing people say it, because there's something very personal about writing something. And it's mad. Like I say, I've written films before, and I think the way they're structured in that you will film a scene, and it might be at the end of it, it might be partway through, and you know it doesn't have any correlation to what you're going to be doing next. Whereas this is just, look, this is the entire story laid out in front of you, and this is a lot of people, it would have been them reading it for the first time, and yeah, it was a very strange experience. It was a mixture of not liking it at all to begin with, to then enjoying it by the end of it. I was so nervous that it didn't work, like the story didn't work, or that it wouldn't be funny. And I don't know why. As someone who likes humour, and I've kind of gone through life always considering myself to be funny. I know that's subjective. The idea of not being able to write something that would make people laugh was a real fear of mine when doing this.
Precious tape.
You sound like Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
The Betamax tape, I wrote that in, having worked in production environments, 20 odd years ago. It was pretty commonplace for the format to be used for archival means. And I went with Betamax over VHS mainly so I could get the joke from Dale in there about the format war.
The storm outside.
Ish and Perry here, I like these two as a little friendship. Simon commented to me that he was playing it as if Perry was reading more into it than Ish. And I can absolutely believe that Perry starts fancying her after they get closer, and because Ish had shown some kindness and whatnot, he starts to think maybe there's a chance there. Going back into the tent now. Bob doing some kind of not feng shui, like Tai Chi. And slamming it down. I had this idea that I could try and wake or shock the audience a little after the previous scene. Not because I thought it was boring, but just to keep them engaged. Having Bob jump and grunt worked on a comedic level as well, though, I think. And I definitely have suffered from restless legs, so stuff like that is quite amusing to me.
Careful indeed. If this machine does have a chaotic aura...
You can see the projector screen in the back there. I'd been struggling to secure the right type of screen from our storage. We'd had them in the past, but I couldn't find the one that I was picturing, and none of the ones we had were right. So I found the one you can see there at work, where I work, in one of the storerooms. I took it thinking, this will be perfect. We don't use it anymore, and I'd forgotten to tell anyone about it, including my line manager, John, and realised close to the performance, and I was about to go on annual leave ahead of the show, and I hadn't said anything about taking it, and he and a load of the team had bought tickets to see it, and I had this panic of them coming to see it and thinking, hold on, that's ours. Thankfully, I did get a chance to tell him beforehand. So the Betamax footage here, we shot using a mixture of iPhone 16 Pro, Panasonic's GH5, just to give some historical context to it, and then applied a VHS filter to it and trying to make it look dated. I think it works quite well. Also used some AI. The shots on the boat and it leaving, along with the Merlin lizard you see a bit later, were AI generated using Google Gemini. And it's nice to have something like that in your toolbox. I think there's definitely a place for AI if it can assist creativity rather than replace it. And I mean, the shots of the boat and the island looking back at the boat, just not realistic to be able to get, and certainly on the budget for this play. But it took a few prompts to get it right, telling it I want it to look like Betamax footage shot in these conditions on this type of island. But it's quite fun as well. Then being able to mix in our own footage. The footage of the actors was quite nerve-wracking actually, as I knew once we'd shot it, their appearances and the flow of the scene were locked in, and it couldn't be changed at that point. And thankfully it didn't change much, other than us giving Dale the backwards cap, which he could wear in every other scene but that one. Being nervous that he would forget about it.
All right, it's true. I wanted to hurt him. I know it doesn't look good, and I'm sorry. The projector is actually being projected from the bar, the lighting bar. I had explored the idea of putting a smaller projector at the side that the actors were in control of, but it just didn't work right, or the resolution wasn't right, or mounting a projector at the back. I ended up using a piece of software called QLabs on Mac, which allowed me to control the footage and the projector. Like, I could turn it off via a network cable I mean, it's pretty industry standard stuff for theatre, but for us, it was exciting being able to delve into this newer,
It's a big job.
more professional way of doing these things. In the past, we'd just done it with a remote control, and it's so nerve-wracking. You're like, have I turned it off? Have I turned it on? I don't know. But yeah, the Q Labs thing worked really well, and I think we'll use it in the future.
A young lead, some hotshot, earning more than all of us on this show.
With Dale's confession here, I like the idea of setting up a story about Brett that had a slight misdirect of him not being the actor that stunk the place out, where you think the story's going.
Picked up a big fuss about us. Demanding too much on him.
And it allowed me to add some comedy to Maddie as well, when you can hear her say, sorry, why are you telling us this story? Because hopefully that's how the audience is feeling as well. Plus, I knew a couple of guys back in the day when I did some acting professionally who would work
The young, arrogant.
as agents outside of attending auditions and thing and trying to be actors, including my own agent, Danny Steele. So it was nice to be able to plant some experience of my own in that.
Up the ladder while I was shown the door.
And you blame Brett for losing your chance.
Maybe sick to see you broken through. And I'm not going to lie, it felt good to see him in pain yesterday when that accident happened. But that's all it was, an accident.
Come on, let's keep looking.
It's had to be quite carefully timed as well, of clicking play on the next video and it picking up from where it was and continuing.
Keep rolling.
The Merlin lizard you see was for my son Freddie, who is of no age to actually watch this, but he loves lizards, reptiles, dinosaurs, ocean creatures, animals in general. So it was great to be able to put a lizard in for him, and the Merlin lizard came from him also liking planes, especially Supermarine Spitfires, and he loves telling people about them, and he loves mentioning that they have a Merlin engine.
What was that?
No.
So the wig part here really was just an excuse to get them out of the tent again. I knew I didn't want to set the rest of the play inside the tent. I just thought it just wasn't visually as interesting. So I needed to get them outside, so put this idea about the wig in. And Simon and I shot it just outside the village hall. And we got Zepp to come down, I think before one of the rehearsals. It might be before we shot the rest of the Betamax footage, actually. And got him to walk around in the wig, and trying to double Maulden for a tropical island is not easy. The shot there is very tight against the tree that is immediately outside the back door of the hall. We did get some great footage of Zepp walking along like Bigfoot, though, which is very amusing.
Be on sentry duty for the camp. Yep.
So, on we move on to chapter 10, apparently, after the storm. Unbelievably, I wrote this scene as taking place outside the tent on the beach, like Act 1 scene and scene 1 and 2 in Act 1, sorry. So when we first opened the play. But it would have led to an absolutely unbelievably long delay changing the sets between the scenes. And
A stick.
madly, I only noticed the massive issue the day I was sending the scripts off to be printed for us to start rehearsals. And I could have changed it after, but in getting the scripts printed, there is a cost to doing that. So it would have meant lots of reprints or extra pages put in. So changed it very quickly, and it did allow me to add the bit with the sea shanty for Bob here, which I don't think was there at all, or it may have been, but it was like a couple of lines just to build the atmosphere.
Lowlands away, me John. My love she came.
This part has had a mixed response, I think, which you can see from some of the audience when it cuts to the opposite direction. Yeah, there they are. Some enjoying the atmospheric nature of it, others probably a little confused, some just being awkward, unsure what to do. I think the confusion, I suppose, comes from it being Bob, a ridiculous, chaotic character otherwise, but he knows how to act. And I think you have to remember that even people, these mad people, get to where they get because they do have some talent, and Bob's is acting, and he got there by getting into character and being these parts he's played. So I find it absolutely believable that he would sing this sea shanty to himself as a way of getting into character. On the Friday evening, Zepp went to the side of the hall under the lower ceiling part of it, and you could barely see him. It was very, very dark, and the audience were laughing, and I didn't know why. And I think I thought I'd missed the mark on the whole thing, and not judging really how it would be taken. But amusingly afterwards, though, my wife Louise told me they were laughing, or at least her and her friend were laughing, because in the previous scene, Dale mentions that Bob hums and performs when he's going for a wee. So they naturally assumed that Bob had gone off to the side to, take a whiz. It hadn't occurred to me, but yeah, of course, you probably would think that.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how's the shoot going?
Oh, Perry, the paperwork that's going to be needed for this one.
So this was the real scene after. So this was always going to be front of curtain, so you would have had the scene outside the tent that I mentioned, that with the impossible set change, and this it is how it would have been, and it was a chance to build those characters again and the relationships. I found it funny, the idea that Perry is coming around to thinking he could make something out of the footage he'd shot, and Simon and I have for years at various times worked on films we've made years before, just tinkering with them and adding bits here and there when there is a desire. As I record this, Simon is currently working on a project we shot in 2004, which he's kind of been working on off and on for, I think 5 years now. We might see it one day. I think we both are coming to the conclusion, though, that it's better to work on something new than old.
And now you're making sure nothing bad happens.
You're not doing a very good job of it, it seems.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, it's fine. But the reality of it is, this is a real mess, and or rather we all, need to work out what happened before it gets any worse.
You can tell Perry here is, and I think this is after having had his moment with Ish in the tent, is feeling a lot more positive about things, and can see a life after the immediate problems that they have to solve. So he seems into a good mood, and I think that helps Maddie as well, get her on track.
Let's get it back to camp before someone decides it's evidence of Bigfoot.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I do not. I like to make that joke in real life as well.
That's different, I guess. That's a legend. It's part of the island's history.
What's the difference?
Bit like the Loch Ness.
Bit like the Loch Ness Monster. I love Loch Ness. And that was my tribute to it. It got a mention then. Found it really hard while writing. You can tell how often I struggle with writing and getting through this. It was actually quite a quick process. But I did find it hard writing to give Ish something here that would be meaningful, that would give her some added depth. And when working on it, I kept going down some dark routes, trying to find the right subject. You know, I thought about abuse or addiction, that kind of thing, but it never sat right within the play, and I didn't want it to be too heavy. Not that they aren't things that are worth talking about, but I just thought it was too much, and I certainly didn't want to take any of those things lightheartedly. And I'm hoping I found the right balance with her cousin that had passed away.
Is that...
I do enjoy writing those backstories as well for the characters. I find it so fascinating to invent a person that exists within this play's world that you can almost picture, but you will never see or hear. But they're real.
We should bag these up.
You don't think someone left them out here, of course, you know, to frame someone else, maybe, like us?
Yeah, I kind of wish we hadn't have found these now.
Like they all carry around sandwich bags, apparently, for collecting evidence, like they're detectives. Just something you write into the script and don't really think about.
Still carrying around that spanner then?
Look, if something leaps out from a bush, I'd rather be holding this in a positive.
Taylor is brilliant here with her delivery of these lines at the start.
Although, are you sure you want to be seen with it? Looks a little bit murdery.
Looks a little bit murdery. Just wonderful. I think Chess and Dale make a nice pair, in my opinion. It was important to give Dale some wider personality other than just being grumpy. Amusingly, Jim's daughter Ava came to see the play, and she was saying that he was just playing himself, which I don't think of Jim as being grumpy at all, really. He's very, usually quite energetic and good-humoured.
So why don't you see her anymore?
For his backstory, in my head, he was away working too much, I think, to have a daughter or a son he was struggling with, and Felicity already had that thread. So I made it about his niece, as I could imagine him enjoying being a fun uncle while he could. Can see him being a bit of a wind-up merchant and having banter with his brother that they apparently fallen out at some point.
Just talk about things. I feel the hot sweat starting it.
This dialogue, when Dale describes this feeling, is me trying to describe that feeling of when I'm trying to talk about something I don't want to talk about. I tried to articulate that into words and gave it to Dale. I think Jim does a wonderful job of delivering it there. I found it excruciating to hear people say it during the auditions, just because everyone, without the context, couldn't really find the note of it, and I suddenly really regretted putting it in. But now I like it. I think Jim delivers it wonderfully, and he really gets the point.
No drama, no betrayal.
Chess's broken engagement here was a mechanism of getting her to seek help from her uncle, having disappointed everyone else in her family, as a way of helping Dale here.
Are you happy now?
Well, besides my current situation of being stuck on an island with a tropical murderer.
And I thought Chess would have a very grown-up end to her relationship. No fighting or anything like that.
We haven't found a killer or Bob's ghost.
The original design for this jungle track bit was a lot more elaborate. Again, I drew vines coming down from the ceiling across the back, and there was a dense flora at the front of the stage. We just had to strip back. We still have those two little rocks with some plants coming off, but beyond that, you really notice how much time it takes to change a set. So I had to come up with a scene where we tackle Elder Laura Colto, and it doesn't really get fully challenged, but this is as close as we get.
No, Chess.
I think at one point while writing, Bob really was going to be dead here, and I was going to come up with some reason why he had. Whether it would have been Ishtil with something else, or
Can we vouch we didn't see anything suspicious?
an accident or something. But decided that this gag was too worth it to put it in. Although interestingly, one of the things I struggled to get was feedback from people reading the script, because it's a lot to ask someone, can you read my 90-page script and give me some feedback on it? And especially when they know you're potentially a bit delicate about it, or vulnerable to the criticism, and could easily disrupt your flow. One of the things I did was I did upload the script to I think it was Gemini, and asked it for some critiquing, and I was nervous about doing it, and it came up with some ideas that I absolutely agreed with. It told me I needed to establish the Cappy route earlier on, so I made a bigger deal about it earlier in the play. I mean, it was alluded to, but never really explicitly mentioned as much. I think another one was there should be another moment where Elder Laura Occulto is made a consideration, so I put that in during the Betamax footage, where you can hear the voice coming through distorted. But one of the criticisms it gave said should just cut this entire Bob thing. It said it doesn't add anything to the story, and doesn't go anywhere. And I felt quite impassioned. I was like, well, no, it's there because it's funny. It's because it's Bob. And it's another example of when I spoke earlier on about having Bob stamp and shout to wake the audience up. It's that shock moment, and I love the idea of it just giving people something to talk about afterwards. So I was quite adamant about keeping it in.
Alone? Dale, do you mind?
Of course not.
Those two seem awfully close all of a sudden.
In cahoots. It's a funny word.
They've just found someone they can trust on this island, which isn't easy.
And I like giving Maddie the lines that ground these things again. I've really struggled with some of the Bobisms. There's one later on where Bob says he's always trusted women, and then goes on to give a strange example of it. And some of them I wrote thinking, I'll get back to that, and never did. Funnily enough, if a ghost offers you a lime, that was one that I thought, I'll come back and change that, or during the rehearsal we'll come up with something better. And it's funny what people latch onto, and the cast really liked that line. There's the Jurassic Park 2 script. I had to make that logo because obviously it doesn't exist.
Please let it be erotic poetry.
I'm looking through the diary here. The rating is quite horrific here. There's some horrific lines as well.
Wait, no, there's guys in here too. Harry, here's you. This guy is something else. 3 out of 10.
This guy is something else.
Chess, the medic. Wish she dresses a nurse.
She dressed so bad. And the real bad one is Ish is keen to show her the passion her personality lacks.
What was wrong with this guy?
Wonderfully horrid.
Is this supposed to be Ish?
This drawing of Ish, I wrote in, and again, having no thoughts of how logistically to do this, or knowing who was going to play Ish at the time. So I knew it had to have something on it because the audience needed to see it slightly, just to feel the invasion of privacy of it. And I obviously did not ask Kelsey to come round and pose naked for me because that would be inappropriate. I used a mixture of like a life study that someone had done, or a model. I think it was a picture of a model doing a pose and traced round it, and then photoshopped a picture of Kelsey's head on the top, and then traced around that as well to make the image. I think it works quite well. I showed it to Kelsey beforehand. I was like, "Are you okay with this?" And she said yes, but it's very, very strange. I actually don't know what happened to that picture, actually, where it ended up.
It should, if it says sparkling underneath.
It does, yeah. Kind of smells like feet, though.
It's probably your breath.
There's another Pollardism from Louise's family, where I think it's when someone says something that like, what is that smell? And it's probably your breath, but it always comes across as being so harsh.
Everybody eats the pasta, but you can have a rice cake as well.
Don't make your actors eat food on set in a live performance. Just don't do it. It's awkward, messy. I think Kelsey said she saw a hair in one of hers. Just gross.
Ish, you seem to be enjoying that.
Yeah, no problem getting that down.
I'm just painfully hungry, alright? At least she's eating with her mouth closed.
Comes a real problem managing it as well, and you've got to prepare it ahead of time. Again, this is someone coming from a filmmaking background.
Okay. Perhaps we should all try and stay awake tonight.
There's a very forced transition here with people going from eating pasta to falling asleep within seconds.
Sorry. Bad analogy.
Murder, mayhem, and accusation.
You know, in the film version of this, there's a slow transitional fade with the sun going down over the horizon to later in the evening.
I am now. What's the matter? I just keep thinking.
Added this bit again to keep it clear about Ish, and it was really supposed to be the moment that Maddie establishes, it could have been Ish for saying the island doesn't need fixing, but wrapping it with Felicity talking about something completely different.
And maybe tomorrow we get off this island.
Yeah, good night, Fliss. This island.
Then we move into the final scene. Lovely round of applause there. Chapter 13, the morning after.
Still alive? That's a start.
Oh, my back's dead, if that counts.
Praise be, I remain unstabbed.
I think the lights again work really well. Going from the night to the day, it does. You really do get that vibe, considering nothing else about the scene really changes.
Yeah, I'm awake and alive.
Yeah, I think so. Hold on, where's Ish? I'm here. All okay.
So Ish being off here is supposed to be that she's hiding the Brett's cup.
Oh, I had the best night's sleep since I reckon I was about 26. I had this wedged in my spine all night. Anyone mind if I take it?
I personally find this joke hilarious. I don't know why the audience didn't find it as funny.
To the point of which it felt personal.
I had the most wonderful dream.
I definitely had some comments after Bob's dream here of, like, are you alright? Like, do you have issues? What brain could come up with this?
Bring forth the antiques! Bring forth the antiques! And my lawyer, who was a coconut, passed me a maypole.
I wish I could tell you the process of writing it, but it just, again, start writing, see where it goes.
I wept openly
Be random.
for several minutes.
I got a couple of hours.
I fell asleep thinking of this great idea for a new movie. Right, stop me if this isn't genius.
One last film reference.
Travels back in time to stop his young self being destroyed by a robot. But here's the twist: the robot is made of like magnetic sand, like really emotional sand.
And the idea that Perry clues into the sand being emotional, like that's the level it needs to be for him.
And he called it the Terminator. Damn it!
Boat.
Oh, thank God.
Is that the boat?
What's the time?
It's 8:03.
The boat.
An hour away, so.
Oh, thank God I can finally get off this odious island.
What do we tell them when they get here?
Do you think we'll all be arrested?
That depends. I think we can piece this thing together before they get here.
Maddie's very confident here, is like, if we can piece this together before they get here.
And you are the only one.
So Dad is very much speaking for me here.
I've always trusted women.
This is the line I was talking about. Like, what does it mean? I don't think Maddie's response line really works either.
Slightly troubling statement, quite covers.
Because it's not slightly troubling, it's very troubling.
You're right. I did write that note to Brett. It was a note chasing him for his insurance form for the trip. The only consequences I would have been referring to is him not being able to bring something that he wanted or being responsible for tax duties.
If that's true, why did he keep it?
I think I might have figured that one out. The answer's here. If you look at the note, you can see it includes my phone number at the bottom. Sorry, mate, I just don't understand how that proves anything. No, quite
I was hoping this was enough to explain and completely remove any doubt that you might have over Maddie by going into the level of having this.
All female telephone numbers and some physical descriptions that would definitely earn you a place on a course with HR.
Well, we knew he was gross.
If you go to the last section,
It's just called potentials, and Maddie, your name is on here with your phone number.
the only way he would have got my phone number was from that note. Is it the last name on the list?
No, very good. 4 or 5 names after yours.
Fair enough, let's see your description.
Yeah, you are.
Maddie, redhead.
Gillian Anderson.
Body is the money.
So I tried to throw in as many 90s dated terms in here. Da bomb is money, things like that.
As disgusting as it is, it does seem complimentary. Perhaps he could fancy you too. Do you have any thoughts on anyone else?
Yes, well there's this. A sketch of it. He drew you, objectified you. You wouldn't be the first woman to retaliate against that kind of treatment.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but
I've lived a sheltered life between Edinburgh and Ecuador. I've not had to come up against this.
I like the idea of Ish being honest with the flattery of it, and I think it was important as well, earlier on as well, when Maddie says, I'm not going to tell you what to do because you're a grown-up, because I think it'd be easy for someone to be like, don't go with Brett, you know, he is bad news, or you're going to get hurt or something like that. But in a way, she's letting her make her own decisions, which is the right thing to do. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with someone having fun like that, I don't think. So I thought it was quite a grown-up perspective from Maddie.
Maybe it's because everyone keeps calling her Chess.
We finally get the closure of the Jess Chess
I heard Brett make fun.
thread,
And then
although it, it was pointed out to me afterwards that Dale instantly goes back to calling her Chess afterwards, having just built up quite a nice relationship with her and being quite friendly. But I don't... that's a mistake in writing. It's not anything purposefully, but it's... I like it now. It's a happy mistake because it's... makes me feel like that is just Dale. His thought process isn't going like that. It's like, right, well, that's sorted. Well, anyway, Chess.
Okay, but if it's not chess, what about scalpel and syringe?
I might have an answer for that one too. Do you remember where you found it, Felicity?
Again, the scalpel and syringe going missing. I wrote in and came up with the motives. Came up with that going before I came up with the reason why or even who had taken them.
what a sweet treat.
Um,
That's honey.
and being able to work that into Perry and his limp, I found was wonderful. I remember being grossed out writing it. And you can tell it grossed the audience out as well. Some of the reactions to it was wonderful.
Chess is right, Perry. You really didn't want us to see that tape. It's as if you knew that.
I had to a crowbar in Bob licking it as well. The idea that Maddie would go, smells sweet, anyone want a taste? And Bob taking that literally. I'm not sure if that's how it would go, but hey, it does enough.
Constantly criticising the script and not giving the production his full attention. Unlike Bob.
Milady.
He was a pain, yes, but I needed him. He could have brought an audience. God knows I needed this film to be a success. Brett was a pain in the arse, but what talent isn't?
You have been limping since yesterday. Did you get in a fight and stab Brett?
No,
you have been limping.
I know. Oh, jeez. Are you going to make me say it?
I mean, you can always keep it a secret and tell it to your prison roommate.
Since we arrived, I've been suffering with an issue.
The idea of a boil between your toes is particularly gruesome and very painful, I would imagine. The idea that Perry's just embarrassed about it, so sneaks and does all of these things. Finally, the payoff for Bob tasting it's there, which I think it was like the dress rehearsal. Zepp said to me, "I've just realised why I say this line." It's like, yes. I originally wrote the line that Bob just says, "Yes, well, I certainly feel unwell now." And he reacts to it in no way. And it's up to the audience to react. But the way Zepp does it is much better because it did need selling the joke.
Brett dying stops that. The film's important to you too, Felicity, but you can't deny that you did have a motive for killing Brett. You were rated in his diary.
This really is the equivalent of the standard murder mystery. Agatha Christie, Poirot, gather everyone together and let's go through it all. Hopefully it feels quite natural.
But I just put that down to a power trip. I don't think he actually wanted anything from me.
Not even your contacts.
What contact?
One of the nicest bits of feedback or information I got from the show afterwards was Chris, who played Brett, showing me his friend's program, and I left in the program a little section where you could write your own notes, write down clues, opinions on things, and it was fully populated with the people's ideas and thoughts on it all, and it was great because it felt so lovely to think that someone was listening or interested enough to want to go into that detail and try and work it out. There's something very, very satisfying about seeing someone else write and talk about characters that you've made up. It's one of the nicest kind of compliments of the show I got, I think. And I know they weren't the only ones to do it either. And I know there were other people that bought their own pen and paper to write it.
I forgot I was ever anything else. So yes, I wanted this film to work. I needed it to.
Critiquing my own work, not overly happily with Felicity's dialogue there about the name above the headline, second billing and all that. It's a load of industry terms that I tried to get in there thinking, she's an established actress, but I just don't think it works. I think there was a better way or more meaningful way to try and communicate that mum guilt into it.
Does strange things to your head, doesn't it?
Makes you see things differently.
Or remember what you wanted.
Got a bit reflective here.
Yeah. I believe you, Felicity. You wanted this film to work just as much as Perry, and Brett dying stops that. If anything, you would have told him to shove his footage and walked away with your head held high.
I would try and engineer the way the people being cross-examined would finish their sections so that it would lead into the next person's one naturally, without it being, so it wasn't Felicity, what about Dale?
You were smirking after the accident. I already told you. I didn't kill him. I just didn't mind that he got hurt. There's a difference.
There is a difference there.
I resented him. It's not the same thing. And him dying doesn't change anything. I'm still just a grip.
Revenge is certainly an appetizing plate to be feasted on.
Dale goes on here about not being defined by his job. That is definitely the way I felt about my own career, probably 15 or 14 years ago or so, where I'd be doing jobs that didn't particularly interest me, or I didn't see a future in, and I was doing the job for the money, and my life was outside of it. So I gave that to Dale as well, that feeling of, look, I'm not my job. I am a person as well outside of this. I think it comes from being, like, I wouldn't, if I'd been a bus driver, and that this is in no way trying to go against bus drivers or anything like that, but the idea that if I had been a bus driver, someone would describe me as a bus driver, and that's who I was.
Sorry, emotion makes me nervous.
Heavy tripod line. Knowing that I wanted Zepp to play the role, sometimes you tap into what would they say, and that's definitely something that I could imagine Zepp saying.
Ladies, gentlemen, and all you others of various union affiliations, I, Robert Anthony Lee, age...
I like the idea that they indulge us, because you just wouldn't, would you? This flamboyant, childlike behaviour. You just wouldn't indulge it.
For which I do not apologise, because it was compelling.
You faked your own death and stole Brett's watch.
Oh, it was symbolism. The kind you read about in French Nouveau film books. And besides, it actually fits better.
And Bob's saying something quite intelligent there, and undoing it straight away by saying, and it fit better than mine.
Of a lifetime.
Bob, this is not an audition, and it was clear at that point that this production would not be continuing.
I know that, but just in case...
This is another line that I should have changed. Why would the BAFTA committee need to know he could play himself? Are they producing the docudrama? They don't tend to.
You've been so disruptive to this production. Playing with guns, lying down by the fire, waving a knife around minutes after we discovered Brett's body and his wounds.
And we've got footage of you in costume being creepy and weird in the background behind the trees.
That's the nicest thing anyone has said to me.
I notice as well that that's the nicest thing anyone has said to me, and there's a few of those, and a few, I'll take that as a compliment, and I overused it, and this is an artifact of writing a script over quite quickly and rushing it into production, that sometimes you gloss over these things and you don't notice it, but now it's so glaring that so many characters say, I'll take that as a compliment, that's almost a compliment. And it's like, I just cringe at it now.
Although that would make a good entry point into my memoirs.
Anyway, the knife you were holding was too big for the window wrap. What about the scalpel?
No, the injury was caused by Dale's equipment during the shoot.
Oh, God.
It wasn't enough to kill him.
Oh, hang on. If it wasn't Dale,
Jess standing up for Dale there. Lauren mentioning all the characters' names, and I can tell that she's kind of like, oh God, I need to remember everyone's name, and it's hard to do when you're in that moment.
It was something Felicity said to me last night.
I just asked who would stand to gain something from Brett being gone.
Not just gain something, who might feel threatened by him staying.
Like, it's only really then Ish starts to realise that Maddie's talking about her, because I genuinely believe that up until that moment she's been thinking we're looking for someone who stabbed Brett. So any kind of guilt that she may have had, it hasn't needed to exist.
Do you remember? Jess said it smelt wrong.
Yes, we know that he drank from the glass and there was definitely something off with it.
except it wasn't Brett's glass. We all took a drink of Bob's upsetting rum, apart from 2 people.
Why on earth would you notice that?
Del, I identify risk, I manage it, and I try to reduce it. I noticed Chess didn't drink hers, but that made sense. She was the only medic on the island, and she was trying to stay professional.
Well done, Chess.
I even saw her throw it away later. The only other person was Ish. I assume you added something to it? Something from the local flora?
Cappy root.
Kelsey was wonderful here. She'd taken a break from players. I think we worked out it was 8 years, and she'd never done a play before. And she plays Ish wonderfully. Really able to get that light-hearted, self-deprecating nature, but then get worked up into a way that she's done something silly and now having to pay for it. And I think she accepts it in the appropriate way. You get a mild, you can't be serious rejection that you tend to get in these murder mystery things. I knew I couldn't suddenly change Ish into a murderer because it just wasn't her personality, and I don't think the audience would buy it. That's why I wanted it to be an accident, and really negligence across the board from everyone, and Dale's injury impacting it as well. I remember Simon showing me that he put the script into Gemini, I think, and said what would be the appropriate sentences that these people would get, and it was quite interesting hearing them back, and them coming back saying, well, Chess hadn't done anything wrong, so she wouldn't have got anything. It's, well, she did allow Brett to carry on after the injury, and Perry was pushing the production forward, given after everything that had happened. You know, they all kind of do have a part to play. The only one really that doesn't is Felicity, I'd say.
I believe you. Brett's death was an accident. A desperate, clumsy act with tragic consequences.
What's going to happen to us? What do we do now?
I think that's the wrong line. What are we going to do now is the right line. I think everyone's like, oh, what is going to happen to us? I think that might be a bit later. Although Dale is definitely trying to offload some of the blame there, isn't he?
We form a blood pact and swear an oath under Elder Lord Occulto to never speak of this again.
Bob.
Worth a try?
Come on, let's get off this island.
What's going to happen to us?
There will be consequences. Some more severe than others.
It's hard balancing the depressed ending and trying to not end too much of a sour note. So try to add some comedy in here with Simon running off with that. That was supposed to be a film run. We had it and it just clearly wasn't on the table. So he picked up the camera box again, which was also the projector. It's a lot of things. There we go. The end. I think the audience gave it a good reaction. I think both nights it was very good. The only thing about the Saturday Saturday night, the audience didn't laugh as much. You got a good reaction from the one here. This is mainly the Friday night, but the Saturday one didn't quite have the same level. Chris expertly including the lime there, which I think was Elaine, the assistant producer's recommendation. weirdly found the curtain call hard, trying to find the right order, because you're like, there isn't. If there is, Maddie probably is the main character. She's the one that solves it. If there was a detective. But everyone else, it's like, I don't know, what order do you give them? Do you go in their friendships or what? I'm glad we got to get the prologue cast back as well. So there's it, and we go into the end credits now. And this was a fun chance for me to use Stacey's version of Let Love Win and include the posters that were up around the hall. I decided to add a little extra fun to this version of Let Love Win. I added some brushed drums to it to pick it up, and there's some subtle strings, I think, to play on those emotional chords. Bob Gale in the back of that poster there, which works really well. I asked him if he wanted to be it. He loved the idea of it, so I was happy to include him. So that is Simon's 7 Days of Plague. Obviously does not star Bob Lee. I think it's Simon. I'll put Zepp's face over. So there's all the music that I used, and all the sound effect credits that have to go in. They're part of those Creative Commons credits. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you to the cast and crew for a wonderful experience. Thank you very much.